little far behind there, just a little too far behind there for them to get started. Okay, so here was our original feature match. This is game one. We're looking at Mattyocre Stone Scar deck here versus LocoPojo at the top. Similar to actually the game we just came from. We've got a pretty overwhelming aggro start here from Mattyocre. LocoPojo on the back foot at 12 life, but a grip full of cards for LocoPojo. Unfortunately, don't have the hand cams for him yet, but looks like Mattyocre's in a pretty good position here. We'll see what Loco can do to stem the bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, that's the one strong. That's another strong suit of this Stone Scar deck that's so low to the ground that they are able to start playing 2 cards a turn, hopefully sooner than their opponent, and then maybe not necessarily have card advantage in hand, but at least kind of overwhelm them on the board early, which is what we kind of see happening here. Even though LocoPojo was able to deploy 2 units in this turn to make some aggressive blocks. So it looks like all 3 blocks from LocoPojo are going to be able to trade. So it's going to leave Mattyocre. Oh, no, Mattyocre decides to burn the char, keeping the 4/4 dragon alive.
Yeah, good play there. That dragon's probably going to be a really difficult threat for LocoPojo, so really wants to keep that threat alive. And that burn 2 to the, that burn 2 is going to be useful there. There's a Xenon Temple here. Fire off. They're going to fire off Augury, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you would want to swap a 1/5 their strength and health here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it could make it a little easier to kill, I would guess.
Here we go. Here's one of these emblems with the Decimate. Just look how powerful that was. Just a power off the top of the deck turns into a 3/3 overwhelm for basically no cost to Mattyocre.
Mm-hmm. Mattyocre valuing the second Cozen's Mastery trigger, deciding not to attack with those 2. LocoPojo did make it to one of the powerhouse or endgame cards in the form of Marison the Eldest, and then immediately giving him a 2/2 flying locust that could probably stem the bleeding from the Cinder Dragon, at least for the moment.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about before the tournament started, that this is what LocoPojo's deck was going to do. It was a little bit slow, it was a little bit ramp at the beginning of the game, but once you're able to start pulling down 7 and 8 drops like this, look how quickly this game has turned around. Just being able to drop an 8 drop to get a blocker, get some units, and then play the 7 drop with removal right after this, and has really stabilized here. And honestly, this game looked like Mattyocre was in a commanding lead, but now I don't know what Mattyocre even does to close out this game.
Well, drawing a Voprex choice is pretty good here because it's going to allow him to grab the Cinder Dragon back from the Void and sadly not play it this turn, which is a little frustrating. But of note, when he plays it next turn, he will be able to trigger 2 treasure troves off of the double Cozen. So that could be enough to kind of make up some of the virtual card event or card disadvantage that Loco has kind of put more. Oh, well, another Incarnus coming down, giving LocoPojo another 3 spells to pick from is going to be tough.
Yeah, Incarnus, just such a powerful card. We've seen, if you haven't played much at Expedition, this is a card to keep your eye on. Just extremely powerful and so much value. Just the 3/3 for 4, unblockable with the Mastery, and then just Invoke just being incredibly powerful. You just get a free card off of it for no investment. You get a powerful card already, and then being able to get just basically a free value out of it just makes it a built-in 2-for-1. Extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mattyocre decided he drawing a Jack's Knife off the top will allow him to trigger the Cozen, getting the 4/4 dragon without having to swing with her. And now she's a decent blocker that could block some of the stuff on the board, though. But slowly but surely, LocoPojo is building up a board of 1/1 deadlies, which sadly match up pretty well against all these Ash Elementals and Cozens.
Mm-hmm. They absolutely do, and the two flying blockers for LocoPojo is just going to be able to even trade or even jump block if needed to. But, LocoPojo sees the writing on the wall here and says, look, I can turn this game around. I can win this game here in a turn or two. And they're just going to go aggro here and force Mattyocre on the back foot a little bit.
Yeah, and then it looks like they picked up Depter's Shackles off of the Incarnus trigger, the initial evoke, which was great. Combos great with Incarnus, making it a 6/5. And then once it infiltrates, which obviously her having unblockable, they're able to kill a unit. And so they kill one of the dragons and then followed up by playing a Carnivorous Vorlunk to kill the other dragon. That's going to call it. Mattyocre is done.
Wow. Good play there by LocoPojo. We saw that as soon as that game looked like it was a Mattyocre's command, and then we saw as soon as LocoPojo got to 8 power, was able to just completely turn the tides there very quickly. And that's what that deck is designed to do, right? Get to 8 power and just start playing your powerhouse cards at that point and hope they're enough to take over the game. All right, for that was game one. Remember, these are best 2 out of 3. So what we're going to do for this one, because I want everyone to be able to get hand cams here, is I am able to get Mattyocre's hand cam. So we're actually going to switch things around here. We're going to spectate the primary view for LocoPojo, and then we're going to get Mattyocre's hand cam going. So we'll see kind of the opposite side there, and we'll get to see LocoPojo's deck from his point of view instead. And they're just getting set up here for their game 2. And it looks like we don't have too many results in. It looks like Laranja and Hoyt the Mage are tied at 1-1. Looks like Bardine took the first game over Demicore 1-0, and we saw Papa Capricorn take the first one over John Holio. They are still in game 2 at the moment. While we're waiting for them to get set up here, let's take a look back at these deck lists again. So this is what we're going to be viewing.
I definitely think this is going to be one of those matchups where if Mattyocre is on the play, is going to be huge for momentum.
Mm-hmm. That is a good point. And you mentioned being on the play. So one thing to mention here, too, is there's not modified play draw here. And so what that means is that it's not loser goes first. It's by the random of the client. So we don't get to choose that. It looks like LocoPojo did get to go first here, unfortunately for Mattyocre. So we should have the hand cams up here. So looking at Mattyocre's hand here, he's got 2 Verret Hero and Trainings in hand. He's got a Kozan Darkheart, and he's got that Beast Caller's Amulet. So that Beast Caller's Amulet could be pretty good here. LocoPojo not having any removal in hand. Well, too deadly there, though.
And deciding to decimate quite early to get a solid blocker on the board here. And Mattyocre just decides to set it in there. He might as well clear the board. They have some follow-up plays. So would you play the Vart here or the Kozan?
I think I would play the Kozan and then try to go for the Beast Caller's Amulet there next turn.
Yep, and sure enough, that's exactly what we see here.
Oh, that's brutal.
Having the Wasp to come in and block the Kozan. So 2 for 1-ing Mattyocre here. You hate to see that. It's a little frustrating, but at least next turn they'll be able to deploy 2 threats in 1 turn. So hopefully that'll be enough to get them through.
Especially off the top, too. That was brutal. Mattyocre, you see there decimating. Now, as we said, Mattyocre's deck tops out at 3-4 power, so not afraid to decimate there. Don't need that 4th power at this point, especially with 2 more in hand. Going to go ahead and get that Ash Elemental, the 3/3 Overwhelm for 2 instead. Can play out the Varret and the Ash Elemental here.
It's going to be tough, though, because LocoPojo, we're already at turn 5 and still at a healthy 24 life total. So what we're going to see, and Mattyocre doesn't have anything to really push through damage other than more units, which, I mean, that could be a way, but you really want to see some kind of like a removal spell or a pump spell to really help kind of get a little extra damage and get them ahead on board.
Yeah, Mattyocre seeing a Fire Sigil there on top with the Scout. Going to throw that to the bottom. Like you said, LocoPojo at this turn of the game still being at 24 health has got to be super happy with how things are going here. Really not worried about it. And then even to rub it in worse, going to grab a Malediction from the board and going to be able to wipe Mattyocre's entire board here. Mattyocre going to play out the Teething Whelp and their last card, and LocoPojo is going to be able to basically wipe their board here.
Oh, yeah, that might be the nail in the coffin here. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You really kind of have to like watch yourself when you're such a low to the ground aggressive deck. Like sometimes you do want to deploy your threats, and obviously LocoPojo is playing in a way where it didn't seem like they quite had it, but you still want to leave something behind just in case something like that happens. So here, once again, we're seeing Mattyocre. At least they're still drawing good. They're still drawing relevant units. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's tough because it always feels bad when you get wrath like that with the Malediction. But, there's also, you never know. It's a delicate balance, though, because sometimes in those situations, your only chance of winning the game is to say, I hope they don't have it, and play out your units. Now, seeing it off of a Smuggler, maybe you see that and say, that's likely what they grabbed, especially with open deck lists. But, yeah, that's definitely tough. The Incarnates here are going to grab a Star Reader's Blade, and they have another Incarnates to follow it up.
Yeah, you're starting to see this game slowly slip away from Mattyocre, mainly just because of the fact like he's still drawing good, but he's still only seeing one card a turn, and he's effectively top decking. Versus LocoPojo has 6 cards in hand.
Yeah, and LocoPojo, I'm sure, wants to wants to get more of these, get more power so they can start playing some of their more expensive spells. But at this point, not really even worried about it. They know they're in such a lead here, and they've got the Incarnus as well, which is kind of going off. So they're just playing patiently. They know they're going to hit their power in time. Just keep playing out their cards, and they'll get there.
Yep. It's going to be interesting if Varric can go ahead and change into either a lifesteal or an Aegis unit. That could be a decent way for Mattyocre to get back in this game. It being a large threat that can tussle, especially having the Spiteful Strike in hand that could regain some life and kind of battle it out with a larger unit. That could help. But I mean, LocoPojo is slowly deploying his threats, creating a board for himself that now it's going to be even tough for Mattyocre to get through that.
Well, and actually triggering the mastery on Incarnates is just going to make it a 9 power unblockable anyway. So it's really do or die here for Mattyocre this turn because he was able to get that fired off a turn early because of the equipment.
Yep, true story. Yeah, that definitely has him back against the wall here. You would like to play Caleb's Persuader and then Spiteful Strike, but sadly you don't get the power till after you're attacking.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much it looks like they just are going to have to yeah, because they don't even have any mastery triggers on the Varret. They could have potentially maybe used it to trigger mastery off of the activation of Caleb's Persuader, but they're far from that happening. So let's see. I don't think this is going to be enough though.
It's going to have to use that just to gain the health, and that. Yeah, I mean that's Mattyocre's really only play to stay alive one more turn.
Yeah, I wonder if he could have Spiteful Strike the Varret to still gain the 4 life and put it at 4 mastery, and then the following turn play Caleb's Persuader, use the activation to flip it into the lifesteal one, and then deal a bunch of damage. You know what I mean?
You go Caleb's Persuader there. Yep.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a turn too late because they're not gonna be able to gain life. So
And nothing in hand for Mattyocre. Not going to be able to gain any life here, and it's just dead to the Incarnates on the back end.
I mean, they drew well for about 4 turns in a row, so it was only going to be a matter of time before they.
Yeah,
so
that
we
was tough.
see the transfer. We see the transformation just a little too late. Yep. So, and Mattyocre calls it a game set match.
Yep, a little too late for Mattyocre there. Tough break there, as you mentioned. Being on the play, maybe that's a different story there. Didn't have the fastest go there, but.